Hi friends! Today we're going to talk a little bit about some different books that I read in March. So this is just a little bit of a wrap up. So I'm going to reference my reading journal here and just go through the books that I finished in March and tell you kind of a little bit about them and what I thought. So the first book that I finished in March was called Black River Orchard. It looks like this. I've already talked about this in my 6 favorite books video, so you can go back and watch that if you want to hear a little bit more about this, but it is kind of like a slow form horror. I like my scary stuff, but I like it sometimes like a little bit slower, a little bit of a slow burn kind of thing. This book takes place in a town in Pennsylvania. It has to do with a man that starts growing these apples, and then this specific kind of apple gives people kind of like powers and kind of heals them, but then it turns into almost like a cult kind of thing with some nefarious things happening. So this was really good. I gave this a 4.5. I would definitely pick this up again. I actually recommended this to my husband. I think he would really like it. So that was the first book that I finished. The second book that I finished, I'm going to try to figure out how to place pictures up here next to me. The second book that I finished was a really short novella. It was on Libby. If you don't know what Libby is, make sure if you have a library card that you sign up for Libby. It's really awesome because you can get ebooks, you can get audiobooks through your library. So it's fantastic, and I love using that resource. But the next book that I read was called The Grown Up, and that was by Gillian Flynn, or Gillian, I'm not sure how she pronounces it, but she's a famous thriller author. And this was just a short novella. It's kind of weird about this woman, and she works at a like psychic place where she initially is doing some sex work there, and then she starts working with people to try to like cleanse their houses. So it's kind of like a scam kind of thing, but it's just interesting how the whole thing kind of plays out and works out. But it's really short, so I won't give too much away about that, but I gave it a 4. It was okay, like for a short book. Wasn't bad. It kept my interest throughout, and yeah, I liked it. The next thing that I read was Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I'm in a very small book club that we usually meet on Fridays, and we kind of break books down into chunks and read a portion throughout the week and then talk about it on Fridays. And the book that they were reading as kind of like a palate cleanser between some different fantasies and so forth was Jane Eyre. I think that was my first Bronte book. And I don't know that I'll really go back and read more. Honestly, I found a lot of it to be kind of boring. I like some of the gothic vibes and things, but like the romance was kind of weird. The man is older than her. He's like 40s, 50s, and she's like very young, like 18, 19 at the time. And I'm not like a huge fan of that kind of age gap romance. And just, there were some different things about the story. It was kind of like meandering throughout. So not like a huge fan of it. I know it's a classic, but sorry, ended up giving that a 3. So I don't know. Maybe the Brontes are not for me. We'll see. The next thing that I read from the library was called When the Reckoning Comes. And that was a short horror book. Really liked it. About this woman. She is a woman of color, and she goes back to her hometown to go to a wedding for her friend, and the wedding is at a plantation. So she has a lot of feelings about it. There were some things that happened in the past at this house, and some persecution that happened to one of their mutual friends, and he actually shows up at the wedding. There's just some really interesting things that's kind of coming back because because it was a plantation. There's kind of some ghosts and things, and you know, the reckoning comes for them essentially. I didn't give this a rating because it kind of felt weird to give it a rating personally. You know, I'm not a person of color. I have thoughts and feelings about things. Throughout it, I thought it was a really great story. I thought it really kind of showed some of the things that people should be learning and respecting about the past. But I kind of felt weird giving it a rating, so just didn't rate it. But overall, like, really good, compelling story. And yeah, some definitely horrifying things. The next thing that I read, I also did not give a rating. It was called Unbowed, and it's by Wangari Maathai. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I read that for a local book club. It's a traveling book club in my town. So we read about different books that come from different countries, and then we eat food that kind of goes along and is from that country. So really cool, fascinating memoir story. Also didn't rate it because felt like that would kind of be weird. Sometimes I really only rate memoirs if they're like a 5-star, or I don't know, I feel like I can rate it, but I didn't really feel like I could rate this one. Really fascinating story. This woman, African woman, and all the things that she did in her area, and also she like came to America and studied. She was a scientist, but she also did so much environmental work, created this thing called the Green Belt movement, where she was helping plant trees in different areas, and just really fascinating. She actually won a Nobel Peace Prize. So just kind of goes on to show about her like environmentalism and all the activism and stuff that she did. Really just a leader in feminist movements, and just a leader in her culture, and doing all kinds of just amazing things for her people and for the world. So very interesting story. Definitely check that out if you're interested. The next thing that I read was called Diavola, and this is by Jennifer Thorne. The cover is just creepy and fascinating. I fell in love with the cover, and really that's why I bought it. And that's why I read it. I had to pick it up because of this cover. It's just amazing. So it's about a woman and her family. They go to stay in a Tuscan villa in Italy, and there's some creepy things that are happening there. Some freaky things happen to her, to the family, and they kind of learn some lessons there. Some very toxic family relationships in this story, and just also some freaky like historical stuff. Really, really good. Gave this one 5 stars. Just highly recommend this as a horror. Just had everything that was just up my alley, like a haunted house, a haunted villa. Like, can't get any better than that. Just so good. Fantastic. And the last book that I read was Magnolia Parks, Into the Dark. And just check out this cover. It's just so amazing. So this is a UK cover. I hate the new US covers. They are horrible of this series. They have like feet on them, and they're just very weird. I don't like them at all. Gotta go with the UK covers if you're gonna read this series. This was a chunker, but like the print and everything is like really big. So didn't take me too long, but this is the 5th in the series, so I'm not gonna talk about it too much. If you like rich people drama, if you like toxic relationships, friendships, found family, just a lot of like toxic rich people issues, you might like these. It's one of those books that, or in series that it's like, I know it's trash, but it's trash that's like for me, if that makes sense. Like I can enjoy this kind of trash. Not like highbrow literature at all. Just toxic friendships, relationships. This one is deeper though. main character is grieving, and there's just a lot of grief in here. Trigger warnings for grief, loss of a family member, trigger warnings for eating disorders. This one is deeper. It went deeper. It went there with the characters. Really wraps up Magnolia and BJ's story, and I just really liked it overall. So definitely, I recommend this series, but I recommend it like with a grain of salt. Knowing that, you know, it is kind of like cheesy and trashy. But I just really, really enjoy it. And I can't wait for the next Daisy Hates book. She is another character that has books in the series, and I just can't wait for her next installment. She was a little bit in here, but just not enough. I love that storyline. It's like a little bit mafia, and it's so good, honestly. I might even love Daisy more than I love Magnolia. And that's saying something because I do really care about Magnolia and love her stories. So just good stuff, even though it's kind of trashy. But that wraps up all the books that I read in March, and I know I'm posting this a little bit late, so sorry about that. But just kind of filming here and there when I get a chance and like when the spirit moves me. So if you like that, like and subscribe, and come see future videos from me. But hope you have a great day. Thank you. Bye.